This hour of news and views is sponsored by Africa Muslims Agency. Africa Muslims Agency, a beacon of hope to communities for over 35 years in Africa and beyond. The time is 12 minutes before the top of the hour, and we'll be delving into a critical and potentially explosive issue brewing in East Africa. Tensions are escalating between Ethiopia and Somalia, driven by Ethiopia's recent attempt to secure a coastal presence, a move that threatens to destabilize the entire Horn of Africa. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's expansionist ambitions have sparked significant international concern as his actions have challenged Somalia's sovereignty and provoked a series of diplomatic and military responses. And as the situation grows increasingly volatile, the potential for broader regional conflict looms large. The repercussions of such a conflict could extend far beyond the immediate region, affecting global strategic interests and international stability. And to provide us with a comprehensive analysis of this complex situation, we are joined by Dr. Abdirizak Muhumed, a PhD research fellow at the Society Work and Politics Institute at Wits University. Dr. Muhumed, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to Salam Media. I really appreciate you giving us your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
I think first and foremost, if we can start by providing an overview of the current tensions between Ethiopia and Somalia and some of the key factors driving this conflict.
Yeah, it all began in January this year when the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, Abiy Ahmed, signed an agreement, not an agreement, but a memorandum of understanding with a president of a breakaway region in northwest Somalia, President Musa Bihi. And Ethiopia, in this regard, in the memorandum, pledged to recognize part of Somalia as an independent country, and in exchange, Somaliland or northwestern region of Somalia, the president was to give a naval base, a military and a naval base in a coastal town or coastal areas in Somalia. So that is how it all began. In response, then Somalia recalled its ambassador from Addis Ababa and sent Ethiopia's ambassador in Mogadishu back home. And from then it has been escalating, and Prime Minister insisted that Ethiopia must get access to the Red Sea, and Somalia has been lobbying against Ethiopia in the international bodies such as UN, European Union, African Union, all of whom backed Somalia's position. But Ethiopia seems to be adamant in getting access to the Red Sea, and Somalia sees that as a blatant violation of its sovereign territory and almost equating Ethiopia's action as an invasion. And Ethiopia, in this case, insisting that they must get access to the sea by all means. And this has generated a geopolitical crisis far beyond the Horn of Africa.
I want to focus on an aspect of this conflict, which I don't think it's really given as much attention. Ethiopia's recent action, which included that memorandum of understanding with Somaliland, how has it impacted relations with Somalia and just the broader regional stability? I'm sure there's something really big that's bubbling under the surface, and that the region itself, the East African bloc, needs to take a look at.
Yeah, the relationship has gotten worse in two senses. One, Somalia is grappling with an internal war against Al-Shabaab, but the Ethiopia's action in this case is seen as a setback in terms of Somalia consolidating control across the country, and Ethiopia's action is also seen as a way to support Al-Shabaab and increase Al-Shabaab's capability and recruitment within or among the Somali community. But in a wider sense, the relationship also has been worsening in the sense that uh, diplomatic ties are frozen almost, despite an attempt to mediate. East Africa largely has not been able to contain the diplomatic crisis, has not been able to mediate the conflict and bring this crisis to a successful conclusion. That has not happened. And
mm,
Ethiopia has not backed down. Somalia also has been increasing its activities against Ethiopia's involvement in Somalia. So Somalia is also calling for a withdrawal of Ethiopian troops who are part of the AU peacekeeping mission in Somalia. So Ethiopia, in this case, is also trying to sabotage Somalia's attempt in forcing Ethiopia to withdraw uh, its troops from the AU peacekeeping mission. And
mm,
it has the foreign ministry of Ethiopia released a price statement yesterday saying that Ethiopia's interest is ironically threatened by Somalia. And Somalia is saying Ethiopia is basically taking advantage of its current condition, Somalia's political crisis. On the other hand, Ethiopia itself is grappling with an internal and violent conflict in almost all the regions of Ethiopia. So, Prime Minister Abiy is in this case using the idea of getting access to the sea as a diversion mechanism to perhaps find a way to unite the Ethiopians. But
mm,
in general, the diplomatic ties are frozen. The tension is escalating by the day. Both Ethiopia and Somalia are increasing their lobby. Ethiopia, it is lobby and argument in terms of insisting that Ethiopia must get access to the sea, and Somalia is in this case rightly so, saying that Ethiopia is violating it is internationally recognized borders.
mm,
So that's how things are. But it seems now, I think, a kind of a war. We might not predict the scale or say that actually how big it will be, but a kind of a war is brewing. Ethiopia has been deploying or transporting its troops along the borders. Ethiopian troops are also inside Somalia, but in this case, uh, as part of the AU mission, and non-AU mission soldiers are there. Somalia's government is weak, but it is also trying hard to contain the conflict by telling Ethiopia this is an outright invasion of a sovereign country.
mm, mm. You touched a bit on some of the internal conflicts that Ethiopia is also currently grappling with. These obviously, include the well-documented Tigray conflict, the Amara, and also Oromia regions. How have those conflicts influenced its foreign policy and actions towards Somalia?
Yeah, that's a good question. Ethiopia is as weak as Somalia in terms of political instability. In fact, it is some commentators argue that Ethiopia is even in a weaker position because of the ethnic tensions. As you said, Oromia is almost in the hands of OLE, Oromo Liberation Front. The Tigray conflict is still on. It has not been resolved. There's also the Amhara region that's also up in flames, and the Fano Malaysia are also controlling a large part of the Amhara region.
Mm,
So the idea or the attempts to secure a coastal corridor for Ethiopia is Abiy's attempt to somehow find a common ground for Ethiopians, and the Ethiopians, especially the Tigray, the Amhara, a large part of the Oromo people, see Abiy as a kind of a warmonger who has internally failed to unite Ethiopians and govern Ethiopia. But at the same time, he is insisting, or he's focusing an entirely external matter. But the argument is that Ethiopia's problem has not been a lack of a sea corridor. It has been using Djibouti as its main source of livelihood in terms of export and import, and in fact Ethiopia's economy has been growing in previous years, even though now the country is literally bankrupt, and IMF and the World Bank have recently tried to revive its economy. So this memorandum of understanding with unrecognized president of northwestern part of Somalia is kind of a vehicle for Abiy to bring Ethiopians together and find a sort of a unity and increase and create a kind of Ethiopian nationalism, which literally does not exist. The Tigranians now talk about Ethiopia being not their country. The same goes with Amhara. The same goes with Oromia. So the whole country is absolutely in a worse political crisis. The Somalia's problem mainly is the Al-Shabaab issue, but Ethiopia is an ethnic-based political conflict that has been going on for the last 50 years or so. So I think Abiy's initial attempt is also backfiring, in the sense internationally, all international bodies are telling him that Somalia has the right to defend its internationally recognized borders. And even within Africa, respecting the AU's articles on post-colonial borders of Africa and all of that. So in a way, he has not been successful, but he seems adamant. And that is what is likely now to drive an open war, giving Al-Shabaab a kind of a weapon, or at least a political platform to recruit more people. And Somalia is also reaching out other countries and signing defense pacts, and that still angers Ethiopia itself. Ethiopia says now the involvement of other regional powers into the Horn of Africa conflict might itself increase the political instability of the whole region. So it is a really complex and complex geopolitical warfare.
Just two last questions before I let you go. We have unfortunately run out of time. We are seeing Somalia taking steps to kind of bolster its defense capabilities by forming new alliances with Egypt and Turkey. How might these alliances influence the dynamics of the conflict?
Yeah, good question. So for Turkey, Turkey has a very good relationship with both Ethiopia and Somalia. It has invested in Ethiopia, so it has an equal kind of interest in both countries. But at the same time, Somalia being a kind of a very, very strategic country in terms of the Red Sea, because of its geographical location, in terms of the Red Sea and the Indian Ocean, Turkish government sees Somalia as kind of a gateway to the rest of continent or East Africa largely. And it is somehow trying to mediate, though unsuccessful so far, to mediate between Ethiopia and Somalia. So Turkish also signed a kind of a defense pact with Somalia. It has been training Somali military soldiers. It has the largest embassy. It built the largest embassy in the world in Somalia. Turkey's largest embassy anywhere in the world is in Somalia. But it has been trying to kill, two birds with one stone. It doesn't want to lose its investment in Ethiopia, and it doesn't want to lose its strategic position in Somalia. Egypt is a different case. Egypt and Ethiopia has been over the years in disagreement over the Nile water. So their war, or the kind of a cold war over the Nile water, has been brewing as well. So the involvement of Egypt, Ethiopia sees the involvement of Egypt as a threat to its national security, to its territorial in terms of territorial waters in terms of the River Nile. And Egypt sees a strong Somalia as a kind of a defense against Ethiopia's attempts to starve Egypt. So Egypt, the Nile is a life and death for Egypt. So it is a whole lot of a historical and geopolitical warfare.
And just finally, what measures do you believe are necessary for both Ethiopia and Somalia to move towards a peaceful resolution, if there's still anything that is, might resemble a peaceful resolution? And what role can the international community play in facilitating this process?
It's simple. Ethiopia needs to withdraw from the illegal memorandum. It cannot sign a memorandum of understanding to annex part of a sovereign country. So the first step is Ethiopia to withdraw from that memorandum of understanding, and Somalia has made the argument and has made that as a condition, a precondition, in terms of talking to Ethiopia. So once that referendum, Ethiopia withdraws that referendum, then the next hour or a day, a peaceful kind of a negotiation can begin. Somalia is also saying there are other ways that Ethiopia can access to the sea. The role of the international community has so far been positive in terms of either mediating or recognizing Somalia's internationally recognized borders. So I think the international community need to do more in terms of forcing Ethiopia or Abiy to withdraw that and focus on solving the political turmoil of Ethiopia, and at least redirecting Ethiopia to a different direction in terms of opening dialogue with all the leaders and the militia groups and ethnic political rebels that are waging war within Ethiopia. For Somalia, I think the options are limited as long as Ethiopia insists that it is going to annex a part of its territory.
I think we're going to leave it there. Abdirizak Muhumed coming to us from Nairobi. Thank you so much for your insights. Really, really appreciate it.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
And just like that, we have come to the end of today's edition of News and Views. Thank you so much for being with us for the past 2 hours. It's been really a pleasure and very, very insightful show. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for the Friday edition of News and Views with Inayat Wadi. From myself, Salaylo, and the rest of the team, is goodbye.